Hi, this is Dizzy, and I'm going to talk about lazy psychiatry. Um, Female Aspies and females on the autistic spectrum often go into their 20s like I did. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 20. Um, Being ignored and swept under the borderline personality disorder rug. And there are huge differences in how Asperger's presents and autism presents in females than in males. But there's also a huge difference between a borderline person and a female with Asperger's. Females, from what I've noticed, often develop personality disorder like tendencies, like self harm and eating disorders that are often related more to sensory issues than to the usual causes for these things. Um, Women with Asperger's are also more likely to hide their issues rather than put them on display like a borderline often does. And I'm not here to totally bash people with borderline, but they are in the same cluster as histrionic, psychopath, narcissists. Not really fun to be diagnosed with that when you're actually on the autistic spectrum and do not have a penchant for manipulation. It's extremely hard to manipulate when you have severe issues with social cues. And although females on the spectrum often have better social cues and knowledge, probably about the equivalent of maybe a slightly awkward regular male as opposed to the severity of a male on the spectrum, we don't get manipulation. There's not usually a hidden meaning beneath what we say. Uh, Borderlines are a lot like, you know, leave me and I'll kill myself. Oh, you did this, I'm gonna cut myself. Oh, I'm unable to control and regulate my emotions, so I've developed an eating disorder. Females on the spectrum often have issues regulating their emotions too, um, and so do males, but it is not for the same reasons. It's because we don't often understand what our emotions are, what we're feeling, and how to express them appropriately. Sometimes we feel nothing and then they come on very intense. That can look kind of borderline, it can sound kind of borderline, but there is no, it's actually messier than borderline. Borderlines are often explosive and it's for emotional reasons. One of the best ways for me to describe the difference is that a tantrum is something emotional that can be stopped by getting what they want. When children have tantrums, they'll often look at the parent like, "Are you watching? I have a toddler." So I see sometimes that, and borderlines do something similar. With a meltdown, it is very different. It's neurological, it's overload. Nothing the person around you says or does to appeal to your emotional needs is going to stop a meltdown. I know once I've been out around a lot of sounds, a lot of noise, a lot of people, or there's been too much emotional input that I don't understand because it's a lot to comprehend, um, that can lead to a meltdown if I don't get time to slow my roll, basically. And during a meltdown, there is nothing that anyone around me can say or do to stop the meltdown. They can only maybe help to lower its intensity because it's neurological and not emotional. Um, a borderline diagnosis is often a psychiatric death sentence. A lot of people won't even bother. They say, here's some cognitive behavioral therapy and a bunch of meds. Good luck. Peace out. And that's not fair to borderlines. It's not fair to the men who aren't getting diagnosed borderline because it presents differently in men, which I'll get into in another video. And it's definitely not fair to women on the spectrum who are 20, 30, 40, and have gone undiagnosed and without the help they need because they've been put into a cluster B personality disorder diagnosis. And everything that comes out of your mouth once you're diagnosed borderline by a lot of doctors is often thought of, is this a lie? What really happened? How do they manage to distort this? And that's not fair to anybody. And it's especially not fair if you don't know how to manipulate. It's just ridiculous. So, anyway, if you're a psychiatrist or a psychologist, therapist, or other mental health worker and you're watching this, please take note of what I'm saying about females on the spectrum appearing at first to have borderline tendencies as coping mechanisms, but not being borderline. Okay? So, do some research. Lack of empathy in borderlines is often cognitive, and it often comes and goes. Lack of empathy in people on the spectrum is affective. They can feel empathy, it's harder for them to recognize and show it. How did y'all get y'all's PhDs? Anyway, thank you, and have a great day.